Natlan is doomed, is what many say, but I think they're wrong. This story has yet to be truly finished, and the Gnosis still remains in the hands of the Pyro Archon, the single most hated Archon ever to release. In the last video, I defended this queen of controversy against several allegations, mainly the Mary Sue allegations, where the common belief is that Mavuika is a flawless character who is never wrong and is able to beat back every obstacle from her own strength. To which I showed multiple examples of Mavuika exposing her many human shortcomings, proving that the Natlanese people are the strength that saves her from failure. And in Genshin community fashion, this started a war in my comment section, and it appears that the goalpost has been moved. In fact, many have said that it is I who missed the point. However, I have addressed in passing that the issue of Natlan isn't Mavuika, but the storytelling. Because Mavuika has shortcomings befitting of a leader with human limitations. But this makes her a character that is just as respected as Rex Lapis, but as vulnerable as Furina. But why is she so hated, and how do people miss this? Well, I believe that I have discovered the truth of this matter. Because this is Mavuika's true problem revealed. Okay, so first things first, Natlan and Fontaine are so similar it is concerning. Both have a specifically 500-year-old human Archon that is forced to deal with an issue that they themselves did not even cause, and they have no real clue of how to deal with it. As a Fatui Harbinger shows up and tells them, "You have no idea what you're doing, I'm going to attack you now." Try as they might to solve this issue, it is someone else who is more competent of a leader than them that ends up saving the day in the end. I just described Natlan and Fontaine at the exact same time. So why is Mavuika hated and Furina loved? Well, put simply, it's the storytelling. You see, Genshin Impact in particular has this crippling addiction to fixating on the traveler. And when this happens, it leads to more subtle characters being entirely misunderstood. Because it is only through these subtleties that you realize that Mavuika has a very ironic cowardice issue. She doesn't ever tell us that her plan couldn't fix the ley lines and that her sacrifice would be in vain in around 200 or 300 years. She runs away to be by herself before the final battle, then runs away after the battle because she was going to sacrifice herself. A plan, again, that wasn't going to work, which is awfully cowardly for the Archon of War, don't you think? She also hides her emotions to appear as the stoic, fearless leader she knows her people need. But unfortunately, since the story follows only the traveler, we don't get to see her vulnerable side very often, which leads to people not believing that it exists. Because once again, in the early Fontaine story, Furina was the most hated character. If you remember from back then, the community couldn't stand this pompous, arrogant little gremlin that falsely accuses people of crimes. But it was after we saw her struggle and break down into tears in dramatic fashion, quite literally center stage, that people said, "Oh, my poor baby Furina, oh, she's doing her best, I love her, I'm leaving my wife for her." IRL jokes aside, it was the portrayal of her struggle that made her so lovable, not the struggle itself. And the proof of this is both characters struggled for exactly 500 years. One isn't worse than the other one. Let's not play that game. So Nova, if you say that Mavuika is so similar to the darling of Hydro herself, how do you fix it? Well, there is no better time to showcase Mavuika's vulnerability than the loss of her Gnosis. It is my prediction that when this happens, we might just see a new side of Mavuika that we might not be ready for. Whether that be rage or depression, we have yet to see. But the spotlight better be on her because her struggle and stoic silence quite obviously didn't hit the mark. We, the player, heard what Furina was thinking on many occasions, and this made her much more understandable. And for some reason, this was done in the Natlan story quest, but they gave it all to Citlali. I will never understand why Citlali who isn't even one of the heroes, got the Farina treatment. Just like Mavuika's outfit from the last video, this is inexcusable and indefensible. This is one of the huge issues of the Natlan story that I personally have with it. Mavuika is too much of a complex and nuanced character to be showcased through external YouTube cinematics. For me, I like characters like this. Expounding on subtleties is my favorite thing to do. That's literally what my whole channel is about. My favorite Inazuma character is Kamisato Ayaka, the original girl with Mary Sue allegations. But right beneath the surface of Ayaka's serene demeanor is a psychological war zone. This girl is living her life choked by her responsibilities, suffering the same fate that she watched her mother and father succumb to till the day they both died. Unable to engage with the world, her mental state is balancing on a thread. And the only person who knows this is her brother, who constantly bends the rules of every single event she is involved in to make sure that she at least gets to participate or at least gets to visit another nation. Her infatuation with the Traveler is not one of romance. It stems from the freedom that we represent. But if you don't believe me, Mizuki herself describes Ayaka's dreamscape as a weathered old pavilion on the brink of collapse. This girl is struggling. But you know what people say? Haha, funny wet socks girl, big forehead, her. Any and all subtlety falls on deaf ears and flies over heads in this community. Do not hate me for telling you the truth. And this is Hoyo's problem. They need to be more apparent because that is what works. The subtleties of Mavuika's character, like her being extremely emotional and sentimental, is not something that stands out. This girl is so sentimental that she is able to paint the likeness of her family from memory after 500 years. When you think about it, that's not normal and is very concerning. She is just that emotional. She nearly cries after hearing Xbalanque's real voice expressing his approval of her, because that's how insecure she was this whole time. She puts on her sunglasses to hide the fact that she's about to cry. And just like I told you before, Mavuika runs away from her emotions, so she walks away and makes up an excuse to leave. Subtlety. This woman is very, very subtle. I didn't even notice this until I read this comment. Okay, I think I've made myself clear in this regard. Mavuika is too subtle of a character and isn't presented in a way that captivates the audience. A responsibility that falls on the storyteller. Aether and Lumine need to take a back seat. Mavuika needs more attention. This is a problem that most Hoyo games have, but it is the worst in Genshin Impact. In Honkai Star Rail, the point of view changes multiple times, and in Zenless Zone Zero, the protagonist often isn't even the main character. Wise and Bell are very often side characters. So Hoyo knows this is an issue, and they are using other games to test out ways to fix it. But the results need to wrap around back to Genshin, please and thank you. Now, on to my second point. I got a bunch of replies in the war zone that was my comment section saying that Mavuika makes bad decisions and never suffers the consequences. And that makes her a Mary Sue character. Oh, no! And that is a wild statement, because I have a lot to say in regards to that. Are you ready? Because this argument makes me crash out a little bit. Just a little bit. Because first of all, the original complaint was that she was too perfect, and now she's not perfect and doesn't suffer the consequences. Which one is it, guys? Because I am assuming that you aren't counting the thousands of people Mavuika gets killed in the war versus the Abyss. Just in case that isn't suffering. Okay, fine. She could suffer more, I guess, you sadist. But who says a character has to suffer the consequences of their bad decisions? Because Mavuika being saved time and time again was to establish the no one fights alone mantra. That had a purpose. Yes, this is a Hoyo game. The power of friendship will always win in the end. Get over it. And just like in real life, when a leader has a unified team all working for the benefit, that leader looks infallible. The mistakes they make do not matter because the team has their back. When a pitcher in baseball throws a perfect game, it isn't because he struck everyone out. It's because his team played lockdown defense for 9 innings. But the pitcher gets the perfect game stat. That's just reality. But I'm gonna take this from a different angle. let's go back to Fontaine and talk about the Fatui Harbingers, because this is a double standard that has been burning me up for a long time. How is Mavuika the issue when Arlecchino exists? Why Arlecchino is not a hated character blows my mind. This character has 22 minutes and 52 seconds of combined screen time, and she accomplished nothing but making things worse. Arlecchino was not sure if Furina had Archon powers or not. She said this herself. But this idiot went and attacked a potential Gnosis-boosted Archon-level threat that could have easily given her what Raiden gave Signora. And no, Arlecchino stands no chance in a fight against a ticked-off Archon. Egeria was so powerful that she created the entire human race in Fontaine, and Focalors was her understudy. And that is who Arlecchino thought she was fighting. And for someone who runs an orphanage and has kids to take care of, this is the most irresponsible, ridiculous decision that she could have possibly made. And she never got punished for it. Yes, she ended up being right, but this is still assault and would have been the dumbest hill for her to literally die on. And to this day, if Furina decides to tell Neuvillette what happened, the House of the Hearth would be fatherless. But no one complains about Arlecchino. Raiden A was the direct cause of a civil war that wiped out countless people in at least one confirmed clan. She let the Fatui ruin her nation, she ruined her own economy with the Sakoku Decree, she performed public executions, and has recently been revealed to cause 500 years of mental illness for yokai because she missed with her Musono Hitotachi, and Raiden has not been punished in the slightest. It has taken 4 years for her to simply admit that closing herself off for, what was it, 700 years? Might not have been the best decision. I hate this character. Oh, but Mavuika has to suffer for her bad decisions. Why is Mavuika the problem? This double standard needs to be studied. Every female Archon thus far has been portrayed as naive, weak, stupid, or a terrorist. At least Mavuika is trying to make good decisions. How much does she need to suffer when these characters do much worse and get off scot-free? Name one useful thing Arlecchino does for the entirety of the Archon quest. I'll wait. Even in the final flood cutscene, she is the one character that never shows up. Clorinde, Navia, Riesli, Lenny, Lynette, Fremine, everyone is there but Arlecchino. I thought she wanted to save Fontaine. She spends 20 minutes denigrating Furina for not helping Fontaine, then when push comes to shove, she is nowhere to be found. And as someone who is not from Fontaine, she would be immune to primordial seawater. She wouldn't even dissolve. She would be the most useful person there. Why do you guys like her? Is it just vibes? She is the most arrogant waste of time, overcompensating, aura farming character I have ever seen. You could take her out of the Archon quest entirely and nothing would change. And you know how her story was told? Oh, that's right, it was through cinematics. But again, it was fine when they did it with Arlecchino, but for some reason when they do it with Mavuika, it's a problem. Why? Unless you want me to bring up Arlecchino's little slideshow that was her story quest, which is quite honestly the worst storytelling I have ever seen in game. No, you don't want to talk about that, do you? Let's not go there. You see, this is why Capitano gets glazed, because he is doing things no other Harbinger has done. He is actually useful and is driving the plot right now. Him shaking up the ley lines is what caused the Hutao incident with the filth and the Mizuki event fallout. You have Natlan to thank for those stories, by the way. I've seen content creators saying, oh, Natlan sucked, but the Hutao story was peak. You have Natlan to thank for that, by the way. Natlan caused that to happen. This is peak double standard, no matter how you look at it. And this is why I call it selective outrage. This is also why Mavuika is the most over-hated character for absolutely no reason. The storytelling doesn't do her justice, but she is not the main issue here. And quite honestly, I cannot comprehend the logic of Mavuika needs to suffer more. For what? What did she do? Her best? Her issues are simply not as glaring as Furina's, but that was the entire theme of Fontaine. Hydro is the element of emotion, so emotions will be put center stage. Mavuika is probably not going to have a full-on mental breakdown. That's not her character. Her vulnerabilities are shown through various subtleties and cinematics, which isn't the best, but that isn't her problem. That's the storytelling's problem. And I believe in the upcoming true ending of the Natlan story, we will get the Farina effect all over again. Everyone hates the Archon, then the ending happens, and everyone gets all mushy. We just need a simple point of view shift to witness the struggles Mavuika has in a more vivid fashion. And that is a very simple fix considering they've done it with 2 different characters already. I just hope they will because I like Mavuika and I don't think she's a Mary Sue. And I need more people to understand this fact. But what do you guys think? Be sure to let me know and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace, y'all. Why are my Genshin videos so long? And why was my top comment people thinking that Mavuika didn't have a designed signature weapon before the story quest even started? They do know that these patches are planned years in advance, right? Even a 4-star like Yen-san was planned, whatever.